Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for this episode. Really exciting guest on. A lot of you guys are going to know him and the company he's a part of for the work that they do in the crypto space. But I want to introduce Chief Business Officer of Dapper Labs, Mik. Thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate the time, my man.
Thanks for having me, Alex. Great to be here with you.
Now, what a lot of people may not know is that your company, you guys are the founder of CryptoKitties. And CryptoKitties, if you're in crypto, you know CryptoKitties. They took the space over by storm. No one really knew. They came out of left field. Not everybody knew where they came from, and they were like, "Oh my God, what's this uprising of CryptoKitties?" But that was really the beginning of like NFT and the whole craze that surrounded that. So I definitely want to get into that with you for the viewers in a little bit. But what I really want to do is get your background and find just hear about the road that you traveled to get to where you are right now with Dapper Labs, because I know you have an extensive background in gaming and stuff like that, and that atmosphere always melds itself to what what NFTs are now, e-gaming sports and stuff like that. So please just enlighten us with this really cool story.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually started my career in private equity. It didn't last very long. It lasted about a year. I realized that stuff was really not for me, making spreadsheets all day. I got into the gaming industry initially through a friend from high school who wanted to create a company where people could play games and earn college tuition. So this was at the time where everybody was playing poker in college. The US changed the laws and people couldn't play anymore. And so he thought, well, what would happen if we could create games where people could enter for free? Those games would be sponsored and people could win tournaments. Turned out to be not the greatest idea, but that kind of gave me a sense of gaming and the problems that existed there. And through that, one of the problems I found was that a lot of games that existed, the way they updated themselves, specifically mobile games, was kind of ancient. You had to you get all this data in real time, but people were patching updates once a month and trying to kind of adapt their games very slowly. The beauty of phones is that you can send back data in real time, right? And so myself and my co-founder and CTO, who is a former CTO of EA Sports, so FIFA, famously FIFA, and then like NHL, etc. We created this company where initially we made it possible for people to kind of for developers to update their games in real time. So set variables and tweak those variables based on user behavior, running A/B tests. And we started to have a bit of popularity there and more demands for features like live, quote unquote, live features came around, things like leaderboards, etc. So started to kind of shift towards more competitiveness and competitive gaming. Where we were getting a lot of traction was from larger game developers that were entering the mobile space, folks like Sega, Bandai Namco. And what we found is that they didn't have the teams available to actually run all these A/B tests. And so what we added on to our platform was simple machine learning. So essentially our platform became a platform that adapted games to human behavior, or kind of put more crudely, we made people more addicted to mobile games. We grew that to about 250 million users before selling it to one of our larger clients in 2016, Animoca Brands, who funnily enough is now also in the crypto gaming space. And so everything's
fuel powered, right? That's the company fuel powered that you start. Okay.
Exactly, fuel powered. Sorry. Yeah.
I mean, you can see your passion for this. This is fun, obviously. And I just learned a heck of a lot more about the evolution of gaming from when I sit behind my console and play to how things like leaderboards and stuff kind of evolved. And, you know, you're right. The mobile gaming industry is huge. Did you go directly from there into crypto, or was there a moment where it clicked in your head or someone said something?
Yeah, so it was interesting. At the time I was creating Fuel Powered, my best friend from high school had founded a company called Axiom Zen, which is the parent company of Dapper Labs. And they're Axiom Zen essentially created CryptoKitties, and then we spun it out and created Dapper Labs and brought CryptoKitties with us. And so in early 2017, at the time I was taking some time off, and I had been a board member of Axiom Zen since it was created. We were living together back in days and helping each other at night and whatnot. But he called me and he told me, we're going after crypto this year, and we think it's going to be very, very big. Get your ass off the beach and come up here and come see what we're doing. I think you're going to enjoy it. And to give you context, Axiom Zen was a company that builds companies, so essentially a venture studio. And so we had one arm which was consulting, and we worked with Fortune 500 companies to help them build new products and bring them to market. And another arm was just folks with would try to build 10 to 12 products a year. If they were going well and past certain gates, we'd double down on them. Many spun out. We built a company called Zen Hub, which is a project management tool on top of GitHub. We built another company called Roundtable, which is fleet management software. So we were in the business of kind of building companies, and always on emerging technology. So when I came up there and we were looking at blockchain, what I was fascinated by was the way Axiom Zen was looking at it. They said, we believe in a decentralized futures. And the question we were asking ourselves was, what are the bridges that need to be built to get us to that decentralized future? And so personally, I fell in love with the approach that the folks at Axiom Zen were taking. And I just kind of I went down the rabbit hole, and I love this idea of true ownership of assets, this idea that people can build on top of each other, and essentially open networks and the freedom that created. And so I was hooked from the very beginning.
Well, so now there's a little gap between when you sold Fuel Power to when this came around. And from my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, you had a midlife tech crisis. I think is how I saw it put by you in another media. And you spent some time in a Zen Buddhist in Japan. And from there, you took on kite surfing in Brazil. Normally, I wouldn't touch too much on the subject, but I definitely got to hear what this is about, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's when you start a company, it's so all encompassing that you kind of lose yourself. And so like after I kind of like being in survival mode and growth mode and whatnot for about 5 years, and when we kind of had passed that moment, I looked at myself and I was like, well, I don't know who I am. I don't know what I want. I'm doing things because it seems like the right things to do, but like I really felt like I needed to kind of create the space to really ground myself and figure out what it is that I wanted for my life and kind of chart out the next 5 years for myself. And so the Zen Buddhist temple did a lot of kind of like just really helped me kind of really figure those things out for myself, like in a space where capitalism wasn't there, like the day-to-day interactions. I didn't have internet. The only things I was tasked to do was meditate and like till the ground and remove weeds from the ground. And so
it's that really that kind of that cleared you out. That basically was a cleanse almost.
Exactly. And then kite surfing is just like, it's so much fun. It gets you so into flow. And so it's kind of similar in terms of meditative, but also better weather and funner place to be. But yeah, no, it was good in terms of being rejuvenating, but it was also really good in terms of helping me figure out what are the things I care about, both from a personal standpoint, but also from a professional standpoint.
Yeah, no, I mean, lots of times in the entrepreneurial path, people don't take that time to like slow down for a minute and gather up everything and keep going, because it's not sustainable if you're constantly in that growth period, and trying to accomplish that. That's really cool. Okay, so let's go over to CryptoKitties for a second. You guys started as CryptoKitties, became Dapper Labs afterwards, but when you started CryptoKitties, which is the #1 dApp in the world, I have to ask, where did the idea come from? And why do you think it resonated with so many people? Like, how did it become so wildly successful so quickly? And I mean, to the point where it was like, CryptoKitties almost became a meme, right? People in the office would turn around to me and say, "What's up with CryptoKitties?" But it was a hit. It was a smashing success.
Yeah, very grateful for that. I think there's a couple things at play. So I think the first question is how we came up with CryptoKitties. There were a couple of things there. When we were looking at at the bridges that we wanted to create, one of the things we were thinking about was, well, every time we try to talk to folks about crypto, their eyes glaze over, and like I can't just grab someone and explain to them DeFi, and they're not really going to get it, right? And so what we wanted to do was we wanted to see if we could create an application that people didn't necessarily need to understand crypto, but it felt easy and smooth and approachable and not scary. And we wanted to see if that we could get them into that, would they start to understand the values that decentralization can bring to them? Like, would they understand that, hey, I truly own this, in the case of CryptoKitties, hey, I truly own this asset. It can't be taken away from me. It's scarce. I can trade it. I can make money. And can we get them to want to, can we use that as a way to adopt people to the blockchain? And so that was kind of one of the big things that we believed that we were trying to solve for when we were thinking of CryptoKitties. The other one was around non-fungible tokens. And at the time, they didn't exist. And when we kind of saw blockchain, our view was, well, fungible tokens are great. They're money. Money is really, really important. But if you look at the real world, everything that's all the fungible stuff, it only really exists for you to acquire the non-fungible stuff, like your car, having fun with your friends, pieces of art, your home, etc. And so we're like, if we believe in a decentralized world, non-fungible tokens need to exist. Otherwise, there is not going to be a fully decentralized world. And so that was another kind of motivation we had. It was our chief creative officer who came up with cats on the blockchain, and really we had asked him, hey, go build us an app that's decentralized. And then he didn't really, at the time, he hadn't dug deep into blockchain. He came back to us 2 weeks later, and he was like, it's got to be cats. And his reasoning for that was cats rule the internet. They rule YouTube, so of course they were gonna rule the blockchain, and that proved to be absolutely correct.
This was almost like, okay, so it was almost like an experiment, right? Where you wanted something fun for people to kind of get what blockchain was about and crypto and stuff like that. You came up with, you were also at the same time creating a non-fungible token in order to explore that market. So it was almost like a test. And then the guy developing the dApp was like, yeah, we got to make it cats. And so it's almost like the success was based on, we're not taking it too seriously as a commercial item because we're kind of practicing here. But then it grew into a sensation.
Yeah, when we built it, it was really, and the way we built every product at Axiom Zen, and I think it's really kind of the right way to build startups, is often you have premises, but you don't really know whether you're right or wrong. And so really what you want to do is test that premise as quickly as possible. And the one we really, really wanted to test was, if we create something fun and approachable, can we get regular people to adopt the blockchain? And so, but yeah, it was designed as a 1-year experiment. And in fact, we created 50,000 first generation cats, and those were sold over the course of the year. And so that main revenue kind of generation part of for CryptoKitties went away. And so really kind of, it was like the definition of a quick and dirty experiment that we then kind of grew and added a lot to. But I think that's the right way to, that's definitely the way, the philosophy we've always had with kind of new products in unproven markets.
That's a fantastic story, and just to build on that, you guys, I want to lead into what you guys are doing right now, and it's NBA Top Shot, and you guys have a deal with the NBA for, I guess, licensing and stuff like that, but one of the things that have really been of interest over the last quarter is that, one, I see like Tracy McGrady, which just joined Steve Ehrlich's Voyager board. You have Spencer Dinwiddie and a couple of others from the NBA who've come into the crypto space. I mean, you're starting to resonate with these professional athletes and with like non-blockchain, non-crypto people. One, why do you think that they've become so passionate about the space? I mean, what has it been where you've translated to them that this is something really on the forefront and the cusp of greatness? Get involved, because these aren't the type of normal people that would come into our world and all of a sudden become crypto guys.
Yeah, I think it's really because at the end of the day, blockchain actually can really benefit them. And so really when, for example, when we started talking to the league, the NBA, and then the Players Association, really we were like, this is, we were talking about, we can create a new form of merchandising where in a world where, in a decentralized world where content creators and users capture more of the value than middlemen, marketplaces, etc. And that's kind of what got to them. We were speaking a language they understood, which is a new form of digital merchandising. They see all their like the NBA is also kind of has one of the younger fan bases of all the sports. So they know their fans are on their phones, etc. So they want to be resonating with them. They fully understand merchandising, they fully understand collectibles, and so kind of talking to them like, hey, blockchain is able to make digital collectibles a thing, really resonated with them. When we look at
well, it's almost like transferable knowledge, right? They have that in the sports world with collectibles and stuff like that. They're just now taking what they know about that business and applying it to what you guys are telling them.
Yeah, exactly. And I think kind of when you talk about just mainstream adoption, it's really meeting people in the middle and really being able to speak their language. And we were lucky that when we first started talking to the NBA, they already had a small group of executives that was cross-functional that would meet up and talk about blockchain and the power of blockchain. So we were really kind of working with a company and a team that was already forward-looking, already understanding that new technologies can change their industry, and there was a willingness to be ahead of everybody else on that.
Well, to that, I think you guys translated that message pretty well, because over a couple of rounds, you guys have raised $25 million, and with participants like Coinbase Ventures and Andreessen Horowitz, but also from a handful of NBA stars. I mean, they not only took your message and were like, hey, we want to be down with, Top Shot or whatever you guys are involved in. They put their money behind it. What was that experience like? I mean, everybody dislikes capital raising. It's one of those extra jobs added to an entrepreneur. But to really get the support of, and forget about the high profile venture funds, to get the support of like individual NBA stars, that's got to be kind of cool.
Yeah, it is. It is really cool, and we've been we've had multiple rounds of funding, and in earlier ones, our equity rounds. So those one ended up translating into rounds in for our token and the Flow blockchain. But even in our earlier rounds, we had folks like Kanye and Nas invest in our company. So we're very kind of Grateful for that.
I want to see what that investor meeting looks like.
For sure. I think with the NBA players, it was really at the end of the day, the product was already in development, and so what we were able to show them is this new type of collectible, and they're like, "Wow, this is cool," and they were able to get it. And like essentially for the first, I don't know if you've seen our collectible, but the beauty of it is that we really went digital first, and so kind of rather than say, "Hey, let's slap a physical trading card and replicate it in the digital form," we're like, no, let's take a step back. Like, what would a collectible look like if it was digital first? And the thing that we kind of got to was people watch sports because they love to see moments of greatness. And so what if we could capture those, make them scarce, and make people be able to own them? And so kind of our collectible obviously has a picture of the player, has all the stats, etc., but they also capture the highlights. They also are the highlights of what they've done. And so then like when you get to show a player like this really, really cool thing that they've created and they're like, well, shit, I want to own this.
Yep.
Then you create that moment where like, okay, yeah, it makes sense for me to be part of this journey. And it's also really kind of having them on board is really helpful, because when you're trying to create a new form of asset that you want to be seen as collectible and being seen as part of just mainstream, it's important to have other people that that audience respects saying, hey, this is something that we believe in. And so having them as investors definitely goes beyond the money, and we're really happy to have them as partners on this journey.
That's so cool, man. I'm getting excited off of what you're saying. It's, you know, one of the things that you guys did do that raise for is you guys are coming out with a new blockchain, and it's called Flow. And there's an issuance of Flow tokens that are going to be native to the blockchain. But one of the coolest things that that I found out is the tokens are, one, you have some pretty cool custodians that are going to accept these tokens and hold them for the people who have them, like Kraken, CoinList. But one of the cool things I found out is they're going to be able to stake them at these custodians. Tell us a little more about this blockchain, the token, what's going on here, because this is a pretty big undertaking.
Yeah, and so one of the things that happened when we launched CryptoKitties was that at the peak of our popularity, and so we were starting to have a growth curve that like the one you dream of, which is like that real hockey stick growth.
It's a super hockey stick.
Yeah, the super hockey stick growth curve. It completely stalled, and it didn't stall because there wasn't any demand. It stalled because the Ethereum network became really, really slow. We congested it. And so what we found was like we couldn't continue to build on Ethereum, at least mainstream apps. The network itself wasn't really built for that. And so in early 2018, we went on a journey led by our CTO, who, by the way, co-wrote the ERC 721, the NFT standard, to find, well, one, try to work with the Ethereum community, but then to try to figure out, well, where can we build these apps? Because like, if CryptoKitties is going to break Ethereum, it definitely can't bring the NBA there, right? And when speaking to a lot of these, so there's a lot of blockchains out there, especially at the time that, and a lot of them are now getting to mainnet, that were saying, hey, we're going to build the next Ethereum, or we're going to build the next smart contract blockchain. And when talking to them, what we found was that they're great scientists. And very passionate people and very smart, but they didn't really fundamentally understand the problems that an app developer had, and nor did they understand the benefits that blockchain could bring to app developers and to their users. And so what they were all trying to optimize was for a faster blockchain. Things like composability, people being able to build on top of each other, etc. And so we were like, we after interviewing, I think 30 different teams, we were like, wait a second, they don't get it. we probably need to do this ourselves. And so
nobody's ever going to get your own entrepreneurial vision. That's the problem. So you end up doing it yourselves anyway.
Yeah. And so really kind of when we built Flow, we really built it with this idea that rather than optimize for a faster blockchain, we optimize for building a blockchain where developers could build growing businesses. And so that meant making it easy for them to build on and safe. So it also it meant being faster, right, and scalable, because you can't build a business. It also meant, for example, making it easy for a regular consumer to access those applications. And we partnered with Circle and Coinbase to create a wallet that's super easy to use, where you don't need to understand crypto at all to be able to engage with apps, et cetera. So really kind of took a holistic approach, took the learnings that we had from building on top of Ethereum, took the learnings that a lot of our friends who built great companies in the space have learned from building on top of Ethereum, EOS, et cetera, and brought that all together to Flow to make it really easy for any app developer to build a great company.
Which is really cool, because it means that you don't have to be a sophisticated crypto person to really bring these products that you guys are doing to the mainstream and have the everyday ordinary person interact with it. You know, it's just going to be very intuitive and things like that. And I applaud you for that, because I think that's really where the huge adoption absorption comes in, is when you create the interaction between the person, the regular person, and the blockchain, where it has no friction and it's easy to do, is when people get to really understand it and start to embrace it. So really cool. NFTs, non-fungible tokens, relatively new here. You guys have pretty much taken it by storm in development and excitement. Where do you see NFTs moving forward? What's on the horizon? What would you like to see the next iterations of NFTs be? How do you think this evolves?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I think there's a lot of really cool things happening right now in NFTs that are things that we never even had dreamt of, and like really cool companies are doing. One of the examples is a game called Axie Infinity. Just a couple of months ago did a token sale for a pure governance token. And so they're going to saying, hey, we're stepping back from leading this game, and we're going to let users for the first time decide what this game, which is mainly an NFT game, where they're going to go. And I think that's really exciting. The idea that users can be not only owners of assets within games, but also democratic participants of the future of those games. I think it's really cool, especially if you think of us spending more and more time in virtual worlds. One of the things I've been really loving is the intersection of DeFi and NFTs. Don't Buy Meme got quite popular a couple of months ago, and I don't know if you know about it, but it's a fungible token where you stake it to earn pineapples, and you can use those pineapples to buy specific memes. I think that's fantastic. And one of those things that I love about it is the pineapples you can earn are only for specific artists or specific memes. So you're really kind of proving that you want to invest in this artist. And I think that proof of fandom is really cool. There's another game called F1 Delta Time, which just finished the auction. So it's a Formula One racing game. And they just finished the auction of their first track, which went for $220,000. And what's interesting here is that the owner of the track will make revenue from people who are going to race on the track. So they're gaining transaction fees for that. So really kind of like play to earn.
It's like being a real track owner.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just really cool, because then you start to think about, like, essentially a game now, it's not just about the person who's racing the game. Like all these games become true economies where different types of people can be participants and add value in different ways, and it creates these really large economies. So all these things are really cool. I think that I love NFT art, and I think that like the combination of NFT art and AR, VR, like I just got an Oculus too, and that just blew my mind. It's going to be really cool. But I think like one of the things, I think one of the misconceptions that we have is that like people see NFTs as one thing and fungible tokens as another. I see them just as tools. And I think they really just combine to make a lot of things. For example, you won't really truly be able to have real estate commerce on the blockchain without the combination of fungible tokens and non-fungible tokens that will represent real estate, for example. And so I think NFTs have started in the art space and the game space because those are naturally digital. So it's easier to do than try to kind of combine the physical and digital world. But and I think we both believe that the future of all commerce is going to happen on the blockchain because it's just much more efficient. Then you'll see NFTs representing anything that's unique and individual in the real world over time.
Mik, Chief Business Officer at Dapper Labs, the creators of CryptoKitties. I mean, thank you so much for coming on. That was definitely a really fun conversation. And folks, all the information for Dapper Labs is going to be in the description. And you need to go check them out because Top Shot is the game to play here. But also it lists a couple of the others that they have and are working on. I did see FIA esports thing going on, so I'm going to try that out. But definitely, I mean, Mik, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and this was really cool.
Thank you. Had a great conversation with you. It was a lot of fun.
All right, man. Talk to you later, bud.
See you.